Hello, my name is Adonis. I'm here at Ground 2023 and the 10th LPE to present the paper Assessment of Lightning Occurrence over Transmission Lines in the Amazon region using space-based lightning detection. I'd like to thank my co-authors Wendler and Gabriel, and this is a work in collaboration with New Mexico Tech and Federal University of Pará. I divided my presentation in 4 topics: introduction, methodology, results and discussion, and the final remarks. Well, the introduction. The Amazon region of Brazil has a beautiful geographic scenario in which it's favored to the construction of hydroelectric power plants. And the hydroelectric power plants in the Amazon region generate power to other places in Brazil. And we deliver such power using transmission lines. And the transmission lines in the Amazon region of Brazil have a specific characteristics such as huge towers, because some of the towers should be high enough to cross the big rivers in the Amazon region, and also sometimes in some places the tower should be high enough in which the transmission line goes over the trees of the region in order to decrease the ambiental impact to the forest. Uh, Here we have a beautiful example of tower 238 and 241 of the transmission line between Tucuruí, in which has a huge hydroelectric power plant, and Manaus, one of the biggest cities in the Amazon region, and those towers have about 300 meters of height. So for sure, those transmission lines will be the lightning strikes would be often over the transmission lines, because the Amazon region it's also one of the regions of the world with high lightning occurrence rates, and the management of the transmission line should be aware of the lightning strikes over the transmission lines in order to reduce the outage and the bad impacts in the transmission lines. Recently, Montagna and co-authors presented this very interesting paper on the potential use of space-based lightning detection in electric power systems. They explore different use of space-based lightning detection in electric power system, including transmission lines. We will go further in the transmission line topics, and we will develop methodologies to explore in more details the occurrence of lightning flashes over transmission lines and how we can use those information to maintain the transmission lines and avoid outage in the transmission lines. So now about our methodology. We use the geostationary lightning mapper, the GLM, in order to explore the lightning data over the transmission lines in the Amazon region. The GLM has 3 types of data: event, groups, and flash. The event, it's a single pixel in the field of view of GLM, in which if the single pixel changes the luminosity over time, indicates a lightning flash, or at least part of a lightning flash. If we combine all the events that happens at the same time and they are close from each other, we label them as groups. The groups tends to track the return strokes, and the combination of groups that happens in the same place separately up to 330 milliseconds apart, we label them as flashes, as lightning flashes. In this work, we used lightning flash data in order to process all the maps and all the seasonal variability of lightning over the transmission lines. And the GLM covers the entire Amazon region. As we can see here in blue, for example, the field of view of GLM covers the entire American continent. Our transmission line is a 230 kilovolts transmission line, which has 237 kilometers and more than 500 towers. We gridded the GLM data using 0.1 by 0.1 grid in order to process the data and check the flash rate over the transmission line. We also apply a 50 kilometers buffer along the transmission line in order to explore the lightning that occurs nearby the transmission line. Now let's move to the results and discussion of this work. The lightning flash density over the transmission line. So using 4 years of data from 2019 to 2020, we compute the flash density over the transmission line, and we found that the hotspots are in the north region of the transmission line, which we call the beginning of the transmission line, with flash rates higher than 40 flashes per square kilometer per year. We also track the variability of lightning over different months of the year. So in figure 3, we show the number of flashes per month considering the base period between 2019 to 2020. The month with the highest number of lightning flashes is September. And we also explore the seasonal variability of flashes in the space. So we show here the maps of each month of the year based on the 4 years of observation. So here we have January, February, and so on. So we can notice that the hotspots are concentrated in the north in the beginning of the transmission line. However, it changes a little bit over different months of the year. So for example, here in the 11th month of the year, November, the hotspots are spread along the transmission line. It's not only concentrated in the beginning of the transmission line. So that's an important information for the maintenance of the transmission line. We also explore flashes with continuous current. Using the group data of GLM, we compute flashes with continuous current. So we assumed in this paper that flashes with continuous current are the flashes in which we have a sequence of luminosity for at least 20 milliseconds. In this example, we have a flash that occurs in January 2020 along the transmission line, in which has a period of 44 milliseconds of luminosity, so indicating a possible continuous current. So in this conference, one of the co-authors of this work will explore in more details about the methodology to find the continuous current. Okay, so the flashes with continuous current along the transmission lines, the hotspots are more or less in the same location of the overall hotspots for lightning occurrence. And in the figure 4, we show the percentage of flashes with continuous current along to the different months of the year. It's interesting to notice that the month with less percentage with flashes of continuous current is September. However, September is the month of the year with more flash occurrence. So the flash with continuous current, it's not correlated to the number of flashes in the transmission line. So that's one interesting part of this work. And the final remarks. So the hotspots were found at the beginning of the transmission line with about 40 flashes per square kilometer per year. The month with the highest number of flashes was September. The month with the highest percentage of flashes with continuous current was January. So different months, right? The hotspots of flashes with continuous current were also at the beginning of the transmission line with about 10 flashes per square kilometer per year with continuous current. And finally, based on the methodology presented here, the transmission line management can plan maintenance routines in more accurate way. For example, we found that the month of the year with more lightning occurrence over the transmission line is September. So the management of the transmission line can plan maintenance 1 month before September in order to check the isolation of the transmission line and other things that are correlated to the lightning protection of the transmission line. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this work, and now I'm open for questions, and thank you.